What's up, guys? In this project, what we're going to be doing is changing the oil in my wife's Rav. Some of you guys may have seen an earlier video of where we bought this from Carvana. She absolutely loves this thing. It's something that I just discovered, since this is the first time that I have changed the oil on this particular vehicle, in which I'm always a big proponent of doing my own oil changes and things like that. And this is one of the reasons why. The guards underneath the car that cover the oil filter and things like that, the screws are about to fall out of them. So you guys at Carvana, everything was great. However, this is something that I did notice. The screws are extremely loose. I can actually just spin them out with my hand. So whoever did the service work on this vehicle did not tighten up the screws. Now, the argument can be made that they just backed out. The problem is these screws are very stiff all the way in and all the way out. So that is something that I really don't think happened. They're just too far out for no longer than this has been driven. So what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and start the oil change and get it done and bring you guys along with me. Just so you know, I will put links to the filters and everything down in the description of this video to where you guys can go and pick up some of these tools, some of this stuff yourself, and be able to change the oil in your vehicle yourself and avoid this kind of stuff. Here we go, guys. Okay, guys, just to show you what I'm talking about, here's one of the screws. Just look how loose that is. Okay, and I cannot turn that with my fingers very easily, so I'm pretty sure that they just did not tighten these up. Sure, they were rushing it through, but anyways, that is the negative. That kind of stuff happens, but it's one of the reasons why I like to change my own oil and try to do as much of my own service work as possible. This one seems to be tight. The other one is a little loose as well, but we're going to get that out and get the filter and the oil draining and get moving forward with this. And any of you lift companies out there that would like to sponsor a video, feel free to get in touch with me, because I'm getting too old for this. Crawling underneath vehicles. I've been doing it since I was a kid, and I am about burned out on it. But anyways, once you get those 3 screws out, what you can do is try to figure out how to get up underneath there to get that last one that's way back there. So that's what I'm going to do now. One thing you can do if you don't want to use a jack is simply turn the wheel to the far right, and that will give you enough room to get up underneath there for most people and be able to get that plate off. Total of 4 screws. I used a 3/8 socket and my impact gun, and they just pulled right out. And once you get the plate off, you will then have access to the oil filter as well as the oil plug. So what we're going to do now is get it draining, get my oil pan underneath here, get it draining, and pull the filter as well. Stick around to the end of the video, guys, and I will show you how to reset the maintenance switch. Takes a 14mm socket for that oil plug, and you can see that it's draining there. And once it gets done draining, we will clean everything off, put a new crush washer on the oil plug, change the filter, and move forward. One of these will help get the oil filter off. Sometimes those can be kind of in an awkward place. These typically, what they will do is as you tighten, they will actually tighten around the oil filter itself, and that way it can help spin that filter off, especially in some of these hard to get to places. It just uses a regular ratchet. This particular one does. Of course, some of the strap wrenches and things like that, you may not be able to move the oil filter that much depending on the positions you're in. I know I've got one of my trucks that it's impossible to do that. So these can help. Another thing that can help is getting the type of oil filters that have the nut on the bottom of them. That can help as well. But guys, you can find a link to this down in the description below. Alright guys, just to show you, you can see that I've got that wrench on my ratchet and have it on the oil filter, and basically as I turn the ratchet that will tighten down on that oil filter and help spin it off. Now that I've got it loose, I can simply spin it the rest of the way off with my hand. It does not take much at all with one of those ratchets. And just once you get it a round or two, that oil filter will come right out. So we're just going to let everything drain, get everything cleaned up, and move on. One thing I like to do while the oil is draining is to go ahead and gauge the tires. One of these little compressors is perfect for that. This particular model is one that you can just enter the pressure that you want, press start, and let it go, and it'll automatically shut off. The part number for the oil filter is a PS1003. Okay, I did get the K&N. I like K&N filters. There's other brands out there. I'm not sure exactly what the part number for some of those would be, but I will link this particular oil filter down in the description below. But even though I have gotten the part matched by everything, you know, as far as the documentation and all that, I still like to compare the new filter with the one that I pulled off, because you never know if there is some kind of a mistake in the oil filter as far as the simply putting the wrong one in the box or having something mismatch on the filter or on the part number. Because actually for one of my trucks, the filter that is used on that, at one time they changed apparently the number or the designation or something like that, and a lot of the lookups no longer say that it works for my truck. However, it's been one I've used for years, and it works fine. But guys, I just again like to compare the new filter with the old. If you are looking for this filter for the Rav4, then it will be linked down in the description below. One mistake a lot of people make is not replacing the oil plug gasket. You can see the old one here, and I buy these by the pack, and they're very cheap and can save you a little bit of aggravation later down the road. These things are designed to crush, and once they are crushed, you know, as far as the purpose of the sealing, it is a very good idea to replace them with a new one the next time you change your oil. Again, link down in the description. Don't over tighten your oil plug, or you will cause yourself a lot of aggravation. Also, make sure that you remove the old gasket from the oil plug, the old oil plug seal, before trying to put a new one on, because you do not want a double gasket. It's also a good idea to make sure that the oil filter that you pull off, always flip it over. Check to make sure that the old gasket is on it as well. Sometimes they can come loose, and if you put the new oil filter on there with the old gasket, you're going to develop a leak. So that's just a couple of quick checks that you want to make sure you do. The recommended weight oil for the Rav is a 0W16. Now, there's a lot of people that think that that is way too thin of an oil for an engine. However, you got to remember, the newer technology that's in these engines require a thinner oil. Okay, if you put a thicker oil in the engine of your vehicle than what it is recommended, then you can actually cause damage to the engine. So one thing you do not want to do is deviate from what the manufacturer recommends. They built it, they know what works best in it. I agree, I think it's awful thin. When I first heard the weight of the oil, then I got to studying up about the engines and some of the technology that is in them and some of the reasons why they use that thinner oil, and I'll have to agree. You need to stay with what the manufacturer recommends. I like Mobil 1. I've used Mobil 1 in my vehicles for years. The full synthetic, I'm one that I will spend money on a good oil and good filters and change the oil regularly because oil and filters are much cheaper than new vehicles and new engines. So we are ready now to go ahead and refill. The manufacturer says that it takes 4.8 quarts. Of course, we will fill it up to the limit to that approximately, and then we will of course check our dipstick. I always like to start the engine, let the oil circulate through, and then recheck it. That way you make sure that you fill everything up and there's no void. You're not misreading the dipstick, okay? That way it just kind of helps to make sure that things are done correctly. Now we're going to start it up. I like to check underneath to make sure that I don't have any leaks prior to putting the cover back on. Do not see anything dripping, so sound pretty good. We are going to shut it back down. I'm going to check the oil and then put that cover back on. Okay guys, what we're going to do now is to reset the maintenance required switch. So I'm going to turn the vehicle on until I get the dash lights and everything on. Just like you see here, you don't want to start it, and you can see here that we have the maintenance required screen coming up. What I want to do is press the back arrow here to get me to my menu, and you can see the menu come up there, and I want to be able to scroll. Let me get back in there. I want to be able to scroll using the arrows, the left and right on the arrows. I want to scroll over to the gear, and that is where my settings are. I'm then going to use the down arrow, just like you see here, scroll down to where it says settings, vehicle settings. Don't go down to this particular one here. You want to go to the one that says vehicle settings. Press and hold the OK button for a couple of seconds. And once you do that, it's going to bring up this menu here. You will then scroll down to the schedule maintenance, press that, and it will ask you if you want to reset the data. Once you get into that screen, you just arrow up to yes, press the yes button, press the OK button, and it comes up with reset complete. Okay, it is that simple. Now what I can do is simply scroll all the way back out using the back button, or you can just simply turn off your key just like that. Okay, once I get back to my main screen, when I turn the vehicle back on to go back into my main menu, you will notice here in a minute after everything boots up that it does not come back up with the maintenance required screen. Okay, I'm just going to scroll back over to get the dash, the speedometer, things like that back up. Once I start the vehicle, just like that, my maintenance required light is now turned off, and of course we do have our oil changed and we're ready to go. But guys, hope you liked the video. Be sure to check out the rest of the videos on my channel. Check out the links down in the description below. That way you can find some of the tools that I used in this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.